The shortbow on the Vindicator is here, and it's making people feel like this. But in all seriousness, if you thought Shortbow Renegade was broken, then you're gonna love this one. Imagine everything that makes Shortbow on Renegade amazing. The Salvation trait line, Celestial stats, the Shortbow, then slap on the Vindicator. You know, the spec that can dodge 6 times in a row, gets boons from their dodges, cleanses conditions, gains barriers. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Salvation Vindicator has always been really strong in its own right. Hell, Vindicator as a spec has been really strong in World v World. I've made countless videos covering Vindicator, spanning from a wide range of builds. I'm talking from full Celestial with durability runes to full Ferocity with rage runes. My point is, this spec is super versatile and can flex into almost anything. What this means is that Celestial gear, which grants every stat in the game, ends up being quite good on a spec like Vindicator. Slap on the Shortbow, a weapon that does damage no matter what stats you have, and now you have the Salvation Renegade 2.0. I'm being real, guys, I would not lie to you, Rev mains, this one has been cooking for a while, and oh my, this was worth the wait. Essentially what this build is that it doesn't die. It's really hard to die on this build unless you're just trolling. You have so much condition cleanse through Alliance stance and dodging. You have so much endurance gain through the Vindicator trait line as well as the Relic of Evasion. And you also have damage that keeps up with every other spec because of the Shortbow. Shortbow is just an insane weapon. They've buffed it several times over the last year and it just does so much damage now. With a mixture of power and condi that you pretty much can't go wrong with whatever stats you want to throw on it. Like guys, I'm seriously convinced you can throw any stat on the Vindicator and have a Shortbow and you'll be just fine. The thing is that Celestial Vindicator was already a thing, but it just didn't have enough damage to really work. It kind of was just like a, I'm going to sit here and you can't kill me build. But now it has Shortbow that just takes it to a whole nother level. But you guys already know how busted Vindicator is, how busted Celestial stats are, so let's just go ahead and talk about the build and what we are running today. For my equipment, I am running full Celestial stats, as you probably could have guessed, with the Rune of Leadership and a Relic of Evasion. With this loadout, you can pretty much do everything. The world is your oyster. You have damage, you have healing, you have toughness, you have health. You pretty much can't die. You have damage on the Shortbow, and you have permanent vigor with the Relic of Evasion, which will allow you to dodge more on Vindicator, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Our offensive set will be a Celestial Shortbow with a Sigil of Doom and a Sigil of Energy. Our defensive weapon set will be a Celestial Greatsword with the Sigil of Cleansing and Sigil of Energy. I like to run double energy sigils on my Vindicator like I always have, because that just gives you the most energy uptime, and Vindicator loves energy. For the traits, we are taking Salvation, Invocation, and Vindicator. The reason why we take these traits is because the Salvation trait line is just busted. It gives you Condi Cleanse, Barrier, and Damage Reduction by just doing your dodges and having upkeep. The Salvation trait line is what makes us so tanky and durable, while the Invocation trait line grants us our offensive capabilities by enabling us with Fury and Song of the Mist, which will grant us quickness and also endurance. Essentially what you're trying to do is take 1v1 fights or 1vx fights, because this build does not care about getting third party or jumped on. It just doesn't. You can just handle multiple enemies at a time with ease. Obviously, if you're really good and you can pilot it, then you should be able to handle outnumbered fights, no problem. The Shortbow just does a ridiculous amount of damage, and while you don't have the piercing from the Renegade trait line, you don't really need it. All you gotta do is throw on Impossible Odds. You get a 15% damage reduction thanks to the Salvation trait line, and you just go ahead and start firing away. Your auto attacks mixed with Impossible Odds do enough damage to kill opponents. I've gotten so many kills like that. Obviously you have the Shortbow 5 into Shortbow 4, or Shortbow 5 into Shortbow 3. There's just so many combos you can do on the Shortbow that you shouldn't have trouble really killing anyone. While Greatsword is your defensive set, I wouldn't think of it as that. I would just think of it as like a weapon that you pivot to whenever your Shortbow skills are on cooldown, because you can also do damage on that set as well as play defensive. And that's as far as this build goes. You know, it's the typical Salvation Renegade build, except just upgraded because the Vindicator is just so good in World v World. Let me know down below what you think of this build and if you're liking it. I personally enjoy it just because of how strong it is. I know Celestial stats aren't everyone's favorite, and the Vindicator in general isn't really fun to play against, but playing as it, I feel pretty confident. I don't feel like I can die, so one of those builds where I know if I just want to go in there and do my dailies or weeklies, I can rely on it to just get the job done. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.